I think, prove that to everyone. Usually by the end of an 8-hour shift or so, you're ready for a break.
Yeah, so pretty amazing that they hand off everything over to Houston. Now, we're still monitoring, the feeds down here. The rocket is still on the pad. We're at a hold at 40. I'm watching the weather as well, because this was my concern if we had any kind of delay, was the later we got into this launch window this morning, weather was going to become more of an issue, because as you know, if you've lived in Florida, if you've been to Florida, these afternoon sea breezes start kicking up, and right now you can see Cape Canaveral, we've got showers near the Cape. So I think even if we were going to launch right now, we might be in a weather delay, because we've got these little showers. Now, I'm not detecting any cloud-to-ground lightning currently in those cells, but doesn't mean the rocket itself can sometimes trigger lightning as it goes through there, and they will not launch through precipitation. So if there's any rain at all in that flight path, they will not go through that. So I'm looking at the live feed here off to the side. I can actually see a shower off. Guys, if we could pop that back up, it's pretty, see, look at that. There's the shower off to the right. So we show you the radar, you can see it on the radar, but then you look at the picture, you can actually see the shower beyond right there. So there's the rain shower. So we're looking offshore, and yeah, there's a rain shaft there. So that's the shower you saw on the radar. The rocket's going to go that direction. It's going to go off the east coast of Florida and towards Africa. So right now they probably would be in a weather delay, even if it wasn't for this engine issue, which if you're just tuning in, we're going to go to NASA TV and kind of listen in. I think they are debating or talking about what's happening here. I think they're going to scrub, yeah. It sounds like that's going to be, it's an official scrub, guys. So as I was suspected.
This is Artemis Launch Control.
Here we go.
With an update. Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson has called a scrub for today. Again, Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson has called a scrub of the attempt of launch of Artemis 1 and the Space Launch System with the Orion spacecraft. The issue that came up was an engine bleed that couldn't be remedied.
So as you just heard, guys, they've scrubbed, and we were hearing rumors about this for a while. I think two things happen here. One, obviously the engine issue, but as we were just discussing the weather, I think once you throw the weather in there, I think the launch command was like, hey, we haven't figured out the engine thing, and even if we did, we'd probably be in a delay right now for rain as well. So we're basically already 3 minutes into the launch window. That likely would have put us outside the window. So I think it's probably a good idea that they scrub today, because they can really work and get cracking on this engine issue and figure out what's going on. Hopefully they can get it taken care of. Now, where we're going now is that this is going to be scrubbed. The next window is going to open up on Friday at 12:48 p.m. And that 12:48 p.m. time could be somewhat problematic for weather, even more so than today. We saw showers popping up this morning, but Friday, think about that, that's right before 1 p.m. And you know how heating of the day goes. There's more storms that time of year. So last night I was able to talk with Tony Rice. He's a NASA ambassador, and we talked about what happens if we see a scrub. What's going to happen with this mission on Friday. If this is the problem, then the Friday launch could be just as problematic for weather issues, even if they get that engine issue kind of figured out. So Tony was talking about some of the things that will happen now with this second launch window coming up on Friday. I'm hearing the control center again here. We're going to wait a second. So as I'm listening with you guys, it's an official scrub, but it does sound like they're keeping the fuel. Okay, did they not scrub? So it's kind of conflicting information. It sounds like they scrub, but it does sound like they're going to keep the fuel in there, and maybe this is to help troubleshoot the engine. I only heard about half of the conversation. Okay, so it's an official scrub, but it does sound like what they're doing, they're not going to vent off all this fuel. I think they're going to keep it on to kind of use it as a way to troubleshoot the problem.
To the launch team. However, we will await a determination of what the plan is to go forward to remedy the engine bleed,
Okay.
and then go from there.
So yeah, they're gonna.
Again, an availability to launch. The next availability to launch is 12:48 p.m. Eastern
Okay.
Time.
Yeah, so I'm listening here, guys, and so basically what they're saying is it is an official scrub today, but it does sound like they're not going to basically power everything down and drain the fuel. They're going to leave it in to kind of use it as a way for the engineers to work on this engine. So they're going to take advantage of this scrub to basically, let's use what we have in there already, and we can troubleshoot this as if we were going to launch and see if we can't figure it out. So they're not going to launch today, but they're not going to completely wind everything down so that the engineers can work on this engine. So it'll be interesting to see, and sometimes you see something that looks like smoke or sometimes vapors. That's super cooled liquid oxygen and hydrogen that is venting off continuously. They have to continuously fuel that because it's always evaporating and venting off. So that's when you see that. That's what looks like smoke or steam is that really cold liquid oxygen and hydrogen bleeding off. So they're going to continue to troubleshoot this. They have officially scrubbed, which means our next window for this launch will be Friday at 12:48 p.m. That is a 2-hour window as well. As I was just talking before we listened in there quickly, that's a problematic time frame for thunderstorms because that's the heating of the day. The other concern I have for a Friday launch is that out in the Atlantic, we've got some tropical activity. We've got a tropical system in the middle of the Atlantic that's probably got about an 80% chance of development. I'll show you real quickly. This area in red right here in the middle of your screen, you could see that could be off the east coast of Florida or the Bahamas, maybe not directly impacting Cape Canaveral, but those tropical systems, if they're off the east coast of Florida, that's the recovery zone. If there is an abort of the mission, you've got ships out there, you've got recovery of the solid rocket boosters also. So that recovery area has to have good weather as well. So if there's a tropical storm or a hurricane out there, that could cause issues. So that would be problematic. And then let's say they scrub again on Friday. The next window is Monday. For sure, one of those tropical systems is going to be off the east coast of Florida, whether it's this one, or maybe something else. So tropical activity could become more of an issue. So I think weather is going to become more of an issue with the scrub today. Hopefully Friday we can go. If not, Monday would be the next one. And I don't even think they've even announced a window beyond the Monday. So today's definitely been scrubbed. We'll have to wait and see if they're going to announce on Friday. Maybe they'll open another window sometime next week, so they'll always have 3 kind of available. But again, I talked to Tony Rice. He's a NASA ambassador, lives in the Raleigh area, about what this means scrubbing today and what happens on Friday now that we're in the second launch window. So we have a scrub of the mission. So when's the next launch window for this if we don't go off this morning, which it looks like that's not going to happen?
Yeah, these things happen. I've seen far more scrubs than I've seen launches, but we want to have the best success, and the weather criteria are important. So the next opportunity is going to be on the 2nd, Friday, and that's unfortunately the window opens at 12:48. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's prime time for the sea breeze coming in off the coast. And if you've been to Florida any time in the summer, we have afternoon thunderstorms. It's like clockwork, that 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock time frame. And lightning is one of those big criteria. We've also got some tropical activity out there as well that we've got to contend with. So I'm curious. So what if a tropical system or a hurricane were to head towards the pad? Not so much, on the launch day, but if they were waiting for a window to open, would they have to roll the whole rocket back into the assembly building?
Rollback is always a possibility.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that takes a day.
Yeah.
Because it's rolling at a top speed of about a mile an hour. So their forecasters are probably watching that activity pretty strongly, especially after a scrub like today, and would probably pull the trigger pretty quickly and get that thing rolling back to the barn. several days in advance. So it might seem a little frustrating that a rollback happened, but it's all out of pronounced caution.
Yeah, so let's look at that. I mean, we didn't talk about this earlier, but let's talk about the timeline. Like, so this is obviously the huge test, right? We got to test this. Pending all this being a successful test launch, right, for Artemis 1. So what is the next step after this test mission for Artemis?
So immediately after recovery, immediately after the crews are recovering that capsule as it splashes down off the coast of San Diego, they're going to be gathering all that data. They're going to be gathering all the information that was pulled together during this mission. It is a test. Ultimately, this is a full out test of the Artemis program in preparation for making whatever improvements need to be made to put people on board. And that's the next step, is the Artemis 2 mission, which will include a crew. And it'll look very much like this Artemis 1 mission does. And we could actually see a North Carolinian on that Artemis 2 mission. She's been selected, Christina Cook, a graduate of NC State. She also went to the North Carolina School of Science and Math. And she was among those that were selected several months ago to be a part of this. She could also be one of the first to step back on the moon. She could be the first woman to step on the moon.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. I mean, those people that end up being the first ones, and they're going to be famous, right? I mean, especially in the age of social media, can you imagine if we had social media back during the Apollo missions? I mean, as famous as those astronauts are, what is this going to mean for those astronauts that are able to go and actually go on the moon with Artemis 2?
Well, every astronaut I've ever talked to, and I've asked some of these kind of questions of, they say it changes you. I mean, simply going into space, it changes you, and they call it the overview effect. And it sounds simple, but it's really, really impactful to them. Simply looking down on the Earth and seeing it without borders, seeing the weather patterns moving around, it makes you look at things a little bit differently, and they all turn into environmentalists afterwards.
Yeah, you all of a sudden realize how insignificant you really are when you get that view. So, if we've got a couple backup windows, right? We've got the next one, and if, let's say, we get scrubbed again, let's hope that doesn't happen. How many windows are open before they just say, you know what, we're just going to wait this out? Or are they just going to keep waiting and eventually launch this rocket?
It will eventually get launched, and they've announced those first 2 windows, Friday, September 2nd, and the other one is Monday, September 5th. That's kind of the near-term ones. Looking at the mission plan going farther out, there's launch windows available through December.
Okay.
So this will go off at some point. The biggest challenge in Central Florida is often the weather. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to pull it off on Monday. If not, there's other opportunities that are available.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this before, but that this is not just a short mission like the Apollo missions. This is 42 days or 41 days. So we're going to be able to, once it launches, I think that's just the beginning of the fun, right? Every day we're going to get some kind of cool update as the mission goes on. And so once the mission takes off and we're in orbit, let's say around the moon, what are some cool things that you're looking forward to as the mission is progressing before their splashdown?
I'm hoping that we see some interesting images come from the mission. I'm really looking forward. The geek in me wants to see that radiation data. What does that look like really far past the moon? Even getting out towards some of those positions where NOAA has space weather satellites that are measuring something. How different is what Artemis is going to measure from some of the things that some of the measurements we're seeing with coronal mass ejections and other space weather that's coming from the sun? That's really going to help inform predictions here on Earth. I'm looking forward to the data, really.
Yeah, and I think that'll be cool. So I just thought about this, but this is a question I have because I'll probably get this question from viewers. But so obviously the trajectory for us in the Carolinas, we're probably not going to see it. But if you have a telescope or you've got a great camera, would you be able to see the capsule at all in orbit around the moon? How hard would that be able to see once this mission is underway?
It's a good question. And it's one that is actually really similar to the question about, can we see the hardware that was left on the moon by the Apollo mission? And the answer is no. Unfortunately, it's just too small. The Orion capsule is 5-10 meters tall, which even the Hubble is going to need closer. If we were able to point the Hubble Space Telescope at the moon and look for Orion, it's going to only be able to resolve something about 100 meters.
Yeah.
So here on, even if you've got those nice, big, long, expensive camera lenses, yeah, you're not going to be able to make it out, unfortunately.
It just seems like you got that moon, and I think the moon's so vivid in our night sky. I don't think we realize how far away it still actually is, you know. And this mission will be
so many great pictures.
Oh yeah, I mean, this mission I think will be a great kind of a lesson on like how long it takes to get there and like the process of getting that. That's the one object we all see in the night sky, but this mission is really going to hit home how hard it is to actually get up there. So Tony, great to talk to you again. You know, hopefully once we get this rocket off the ground, we can do this again. And I'm looking forward to the follow-up missions, because this is going to be just an amazing thing to follow over the next years and decades. And like I tell my kids, I mean, they're really looking forward to maybe eventually being on Mars.
That's the next step, isn't it? But we got to figure it all out with Artemis first.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for doing this.
All right, so yeah, we scrubbed today. That's the bad news. We still have issues with the engine number 3. The engineers are still working on trying to resolve what's going on there, because obviously if we can't figure this out today, we're not going to launch on Friday. So the next launch window opens up on Friday, September 2nd at 12:48 p.m. It's a 2-hour window. That would be a 39-day mission. Splashing back down on October 11th. Then let's say we scrub on Friday. The next window opens up on Monday, September 5th, launching at 5:12 p.m. And that would be a 42-day mission, similar to today's launch. So you notice how the launch windows will affect how long the mission goes, because you have to have the perfect launch window to get out, and then the splashdown window has to be there as well. So what's interesting is if we do launch on Friday, after today's scrub, the mission will actually be 3 days shorter than if it would have launched today. So kind of interesting to see that this could be a shorter mission because of what happened today. Now again, weather could be a huge issue on Friday as well as Monday, because as you just heard, both of those time frames are in the afternoon or evening, which means thunderstorms are much more likely in Florida. And the other issue is that we're starting to see tropical systems be more of a development out in the Atlantic. So tropical systems, whether it be a tropical storm or hurricane, and again, it doesn't have to directly impact Cape Canaveral. If there's a hurricane off the east coast of Florida, that's the recovery and the abort area for this mission. So you got recovery ships and stuff out there that would be problematic, and obviously it would not be ideal to be flying a rocket that close to a hurricane, even if it is off the east coast of Florida. So that's the other thing we'll have to watch. Now, I feel like I jinxed everything because I went to Krispy Kreme this morning and bought Artemis donuts. So now we got a whole dozen of Artemis donuts that people in the newsroom will get to eat right now. Probably was that we jinxed it. So again, if you're just tuning in, the bad news this morning, we've got a scrub. It's really primarily because of engine number 3. At the base of the main stage, they could not get it fueled correctly. It's called conditioning. Basically what it was is they pump fuel in there, they also vent it out at the other end, and they could not get the pressure corrected, and then also could not get the temperature to be stable. So it was not the proper setup for launch on engine number 3 of the 4 main engines. So that happened, and then as we started seeing the delay happen, we saw showers and thunderstorms developing off the east coast of Florida. In fact, one point we could see a shower in the background of this picture right here. So I think the combination of the technical issues and then the weather starting to become an issue, it just looked like today was not going to happen. So it's an official scrub currently today. The engineers have not taken all the fuel out. I think what they're doing is, since they know it's a scrub now, they're actually going to use the fuel in there and keep working on that engine as if they were going to launch today. And if they can figure that out, then that would be great for Friday, because honestly, even though it's a scrub and we're going to end our stream today and probably going to turn away, these engineers are just getting to work. They're going to be working hard over the next couple of days because they want to hit that window on Friday, because if they don't, then it's Monday. And then I have not seen NASA release any more additional windows. I do think on Friday they're probably going to have to come up with a third window. They always like to have this redundancy. So when you see one scrubbed of the 3 windows, they're likely going to add another one, probably what would technically be a 4th one, at some point late next week to make sure they have some backup plans. But as I mentioned, weather is going to be increasingly become an issue over the next couple of days. If we go back to the graphic here, I want to show you guys the problem that we had today. Great interactive site on NASA to see all the different stages. Well, it's going to scroll down. You can highlight what each stage does. So this is the liquid hydrogen tank in the middle. At the very base, you've got these RS-25 engines. There are 4 of them. They are super powerful. In fact, these are the same engines that were on the space shuttle. They've been re-engineered again, and these provide a lot of the lift, as well as the solid rocket boosters. These are actually solid fuel, so they packed in. Think of like if you had a model rocket. They burn for exactly 2 minutes and provide 70% of the lift to get it off the ground. These main engines do a lot of the work during that as well, but also the rest of the way. These engines have been the problem. 3 of the 4 have been okay. It was engine number 3 that they had issues with. They could not get it to condition correctly, and that put them on a hold for the 40 minutes, and then it kept holding and delaying, and then weather became an issue. And just a short time ago, if you weren't watching, the flight director said it's an official scrub. They just did not feel like they were going to be able to get the problem resolved, and then weather was becoming an issue, which was going to add to a delay. And again, the window was going to close at 10:33. They got to launch in that window. If not, it's a no-go. So these launch windows are pretty specific. And when it starts at 8:33, they try to launch right at the beginning of the window. That gives them 2 hours of delays. If they can't get in that time frame, then it's a scrub. So today's an official scrub of Artemis 1. We'll have to wait till the end of the week. I think of all the folks that are down in Florida that travel down there, some estimates 100 to 200,000 people down there to see this launch. Either they're going to extend their stay, they're going to come back, or head back down there, and hopefully we see a launch on Friday. The interesting thing about the Friday launch, it will be in the middle of the day. It won't be early in the morning, and if the launch happens on Monday, that would be in the evening hours or dinner time. So again, thanks for tuning in today. We will have coverage again on Friday. James, you have to tell me my year. I think we believe we're going to start maybe around lunchtime, around noon. Yeah, 12:15 Eastern time. So about 30 minutes before launch window opens, which is at 12:48. So very similar to this morning when we started at 8 a.m. with the launch window starting at 8:33. We'll be about 12:15 Eastern time, and the launch window will open up at around 12:48. So 33 minutes after the start of that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get this launch off on Friday, and if I have to, I will buy another dozen of Artemis donuts from Krispy Kreme, and now I get to go eat those and enjoy your morning. Hope you have a great morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and keep your fingers crossed that on Friday we can get Artemis 1 off the ground as we head back to the moon and beyond with NASA.